is eliminating student debt above $10,000. Student debt is holding back an entire generation from being able to save up adequately to be able to invest in homeownership. Childcare, switching technologies from gasoline-dependent vehicles to electric vehicles, investing in that type of infrastructure can help to bring down costs for homeownership. Policy coherency between the three levels of government is crucially important. And one idea that Elizabeth and the Shadow Cabinet has put forward is the call for a Council of Canadian Governments. The Green Party feels that the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation needs to come back to the table directly, working with municipalities. Social housing, once again, policy coherency from the federal government on down to municipalities and regions, to the social purpose real estate sector, working with private lenders, to the nonprofits and charities and advocacy organizations that are doing great community-led research. We see that municipal governments, First Nations governments, and the provinces and federal government need to be sitting down at the table together to get Canada back on track. Our national housing plan calls for a very clear commitment to work on improving the existing stock of housing, whether that's social housing that's badly in need of repair or whether that's our aging stock. The greenest building you can build is the one that's already built. We're not just a one-issue party.
Private sector side of housing, which is a critical part of how most Canadians are housed. The first thing we need to do is re-mandate CMHC. CMHC has been walking away from the housing and mortgage field. A platform about modernizing first-time homebuyer policies, perhaps looking at how you index the credits so that they don't stay stagnant the way they have over 15 years, and they grow with the economy and grow with the housing markets in a way that makes sense to give first-time buyers a real shot at home ownership. Partner with pension funds to create second mortgages, to also create opportunities for lower income Canadians to get into the housing market, perhaps purchasing 80% of the equity of a house, living in it, and when they sell it, gain 80% of the equity back, but pension funds would also have a stake. The GST rebate is one of the things that's in our platform, as well as allowing rental housing builders to borrow through CMHC to lower interest rate payments on projects is another way in which you can get the borrowing costs down, therefore the construction costs down, to stimulate the rental housing market. And as well, we have also committed to releasing federal land when it's declared surplus to encumber it with the requirement that affordable housing and rental housing be included in the zoning and the title, so that we make land available and lower land costs as a result to try and drive affordability into the market. The Liberal Party is committed to renewing the subsidies for rent-geared income units. Our commitment on housing, unlike the NDP, the commitment on housing arrives immediately in the first budget. The $60 billion in infrastructure spending over the next 10 years, $6 billion over the next 4 in housing, doesn't wait for a balanced budget to arrive. Housing is that it is not a problem to be solved, it is the solution to most of the problems we face in this country. When you invest in a stronger housing market, from supportive housing, through public housing, through private rental, through market management conditions, when you deliver stronger housing policy, you deliver a stronger economy.
The NDP believes that homeownership is, in fact, part of the Canadian dream. We agree with you, and we will continue the program. One of the things that the NDP hopes to do is to make the having of a family more affordable by creating things like daycare spaces that people can afford. Where there are federal lands that become vacant and are repurposed, we believe that those lands should have affordable housing built on them for purchase. NDP will restore that money. We will stop the hemorrhaging of money from the federal government into social housing. Spend $500 million, $500 million to provide incentives for purpose-built rental housing in all the cities. The federal government, under the NDP, will in fact reinstate the green retrofit policy. Our priorities are for the cities of this country. Our priorities are for the young people of this country. Our priorities are to make sure that we are not giving oil companies $2 billion a year while people are not being able to be in affordable housing.